Welcome to the Julie Laughton Living Podcast, the place to get advice, tips, and tricks to building the life and luxury home of your dreams with 30-year business owner, designer, and builder, Julie Laughton. It all starts with a good plan. This is Julie Laughton Living.
Welcome back to another episode of the Julie Laughton Podcast. This week, we're going to talk about how to budget for your remodel or your custom home. But don't forget, before we start, to check out my 7 simple steps. Just go to my website, click on it, make a note, go there later, and check it out, because my 7 simple step actually describes everything you're going to need to go through and do for the remodel experience from conception to completion, and how to care for your home for the life of the home. It's all there. Share it with your friends. Check it out. There's even a video you can watch of me describing all that. So check it out. So today we're going to talk about how to set your budget, how important it is to have a budget, and how do you get that budget. So here's the deal. Don't lie to people about what your budget is, because that can be a disaster. I have a client right now. Oh my God. They're on one end of the spectrum and I'm on the other. They say they want one thing and then they ask me for another thing. So, they tell me their budget's X, and then they ask me to design XYZ in the whole alphabet. So you got to be realistic. And how do you get realistic? If you want a multi-million-dollar custom home, you got to know what they cost, and don't ask for it unless you know, because and the first question that should come out of the first meeting is, what's your budget? Like, tell people how much money you're willing to spend day one, and then tell how much money. And then the contractor, the architect, and the whole group together, because the contractor can't tell you the cost unless you know what it looks like, knows what it looks like, and has the plans. And the plans can't be done unless there's engineering. So just so you know, architectural plans can't price them out unless the structural's there. So once you get all that done, you will have a final cost. Great. But before that, you got to know what it's going to cost approximately. So how do I do it? I look at the size of the project and the square footage, and I throw out square footage numbers. And all those numbers are different considering what you're going to do. If you're just doing an interior remodel, it's maybe $200 a square foot or $300. These are minimums, just so you know. If you're doing a new construction, it's $650 to $850 minimum. And then you got to factor in, is it smooth stucco? Is it terracotta triple layered tile? Then you're up to $1,200 a square foot. So the price range for remodels, in the old days, it was like $150, but it's like $200 to $300 for interior, $650, $850, $1,200 for the whole enchilada with the exterior. Some people say that remodels, some people that are really extremely high end with super custom stuff and concrete homes and really modern, they're saying it's $2,500 a square foot. So that's a big number to build, but okay, so remodeling is those other numbers. But when you build ground up, oh my God, it could be that much, because who knows what your foundation is. Some foundations are on the water, on the bluffs. Some foundations are 20, 30-foot caissons, So that's when you get into $1, $2, and $3 million foundations. So then that's when those square footage numbers really shoot up. So everything has to be factored in. And if you have a good contractor that has a lot of experience, they can tell you these numbers off the top of their head. But they have to know what you want, and they have to know the building conditions. And, and then you can't really give the real bid unless you have architectural plans, structural plans, geosoil reports. You got to have all that, because you can't finish the plans with all that. So that's the dealio on bidding. Get the square footage numbers that relate to what you want. Don't just say, I have this budget, and then you ask for something like that cost thousands of dollars a square foot. So you got to be realistic, and what you want has to match what it costs. So back to the plans, I was kind of touching on it earlier. The plans that you need to actually get the bids done is you need the architectural plans, which is, the part that I personally draw, which is the floor plans, the elevations, the custom kitchens, and then it notes all the materials, the tile, the slab, the appliances, the plumbing fixtures, everything that's screwed and glued to the home, the roofing, everything. That's the architectural plans. But to get the bid, you need the soils report, because the structural engineer can't work without the soils report to tell him the strength of the earth so he can do his footings and caissons. So you got to have the architectural plans, the structural engineer plans, the soils report, the topo map, which is the survey, because we can't finish the architectural heights without the survey, and then Title 24, which is really for the city. And then of course there's a drainage plan and the civil plan for the landscape. So all those 5 engineers plans have to be done before you get the final number. Oh, don't forget landscape architecture, because that's all the plants, the lights, and the sprinklers, and blah, 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 and the pool. So that's really 7 things you need to get the bid done. Okay, how do you avoid going over budget? First of all, you have to have a realistic budget. Second of all, the budget has to match what you're asking for. So long as that budget number's there and you asking for doesn't change, you're good. But the problem is with clients is they start to snowball. I want this, I want that. Oh, let's do this, just do that. And then I had one client, she started out with real simple stuff, and then she started showing me very complicated things. She added, in one meeting, she added $850,000. One meeting. And that was generated by 2 rooms she made changes to. So I won't even go there. But the point is, if you're going to make changes and change your house to steel windows and add coffered ceilings and LED lights everywhere that pulsate to the music, okay, and all this stuff, you need to realize that the more you add, the more the number goes up. So if you start at ground zero and then you take off to the moon, the price is going to follow that the takeoff of the ideas. So you got to be careful, because don't be adding. Tell everybody what you want day one, and then that solves a lot of problems. So just know that quality and custom and more custom features, wood paneling, coffered ceilings, that all adds money. Fancy LED lights, that adds money. I mean, garage lights can be $1,000. My one client asked for these honeycomb lights, and they're $10,000 each. They have 3-car garage. So go figure. That's $1,000 to $10,000 difference. So, the point is, you got to realize what you add adds money. So if you don't have a budget, you can't really have a project, because no one knows the parameters. And then it could really go crazy, because if you're in a typical situation where you're working with an architect and a structural engineer and no one's giving them parameters, because engineers may over-engineer, or maybe they don't have guidelines from, like myself, because all my engineers, we talk constantly about what we should or shouldn't do and what's going to happen to the budget if we do this option, because there's always options, okay? So if you don't have anybody monitoring that and you just start asking for stuff, oh my God, your plans could be drawn to a point where you can't afford them. So there's got to be a monitoring and a budget parameter, so everybody knows to stay within the budget when options come up. And then when the options don't meet the budget, they got to tell you right away. Because, if your house is being built in a particular precarious location, the budget numbers got to be big to start with. So anyway, you got to monitor it constantly as you're developing the plans, is my point. So don't forget to budget for your home is talk to professionals that know what they're talking about, get the square footage numbers, add them all up, get a healthy budget, then add 10%, but tell people what you want, like really want day one, because don't think that you're going to tell them something cheap and then you're going to sneak in better stuff later and the price isn't going to change, because that's not what happens, and you're going to disappoint everyone, including yourself, if you do that. So be fair, tell everybody what you really want, and then find out what it really costs. Because to find out what it really costs, you got to talk to the architect, the engineers, and the contractor. Everybody's got to be involved. So that's why I always say bring in the team early when you start your project and get those numbers from the person who knows what they're talking about. And if anybody wants square footage numbers, call me, email me, because the numbers are real, and every situation dictates a different number. Thank you for joining me in another episode of Julie Laughton Podcast. Don't forget to check out my 7 simple steps. It tells you everything you need to know. It's a perfect guide to getting you through your remodel or your custom home build. And I'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Julie Laughton Living. For more information or to connect with Julie one-on-one, visit julielaughtonliving.com. And don't forget, it all starts with a good plan.